Hello. In this episode, we're talking about the cost of being strong and why it makes grief even harder. If you've been trying to stay strong, even when it feels heavy inside, I've got one thing to tell you. You don't need to. There's no need to. You know, one of the most common phrases that grieving people hear is this: be strong. It's usually said with good intentions. Friends will say it. Family members will say it. Church people will say it. Sometimes even strangers will say it. And when people want to appear spiritual, they say it. They'll tell you to be strong. But for many grieving people, those two words can feel incredibly heavy. It's so unfair to put a burden to be strong on someone who has been broken by the death of a loved one. Because, you know, these two words, they seem harmless and they seem well-intentioned. But what they quietly do is they send a message, and this message says, don't cry. It says, don't fall apart. It says, hold yourself together. And many people spend years doing exactly that. You know, in many cultures, strength is often defined as emotional control. People are taught from a very young age that showing sadness or vulnerability is a sign of weakness. This expectation can be even stronger for men, for parents, for caregivers, family leaders, and community leaders. It can be stronger for those people. You know, when someone in these roles experiences loss, they may feel responsible for holding everyone else together except themselves. So they suppress their own emotions, right? And they focus on supporting others instead of allowing themselves to grieve because they are also human. So what happens is that over time, this emotional suppression can become very, very exhausting. You find it changing your personality. You find that you've changed. You've become someone that you've never been. You don't recognize yourself because of the need to be strong. Because you may appear strong on the outside, but there's a lot of turmoil that is happening inside, and it is going to find an outlet somehow. So for those of you who are new here, who are new to this series, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Gugu Mofokeng. I'm the founder of Arise Life Coaching. I'm an integrative stress resolution specialist. I help individuals to resolve stress from its roots, not just manage and cope with it. So my work focuses on helping people to identify and resolve the root causes of their stress so that they can be healed from the invisible stresses of their lives. Many people that I work with are navigating experiences, heavy experiences such as guilt, burnout, mental and emotional exhaustion. And sometimes they do not know what is going on in their lives. And I've observed repeatedly that the emotional pain often becomes heavier when people believe that they have to carry it silently, is what people need to deal with, which is why conversations like this are very, very important, in my opinion. So why do emotions that are suppressed, why do they stay for long periods of time? Because emotions don't simply disappear, like I told you before. They don't simply disappear, they wait. So they often remain in the body and in the mind. And if they're not sorted out, if they're not resolved, they can be trapped in the body. They can even cause sickness. But we're not talking about that today. We will get there in another video in this series. So people who suppress their grief may experience things like, emotional numbness, sudden waves of sadness, but they don't allow that sadness to resolve itself. They may experience anxiety, exhaustion, and physical issues. Grief stays in the lungs. People start getting issues with their lungs because grief stays there. Grief gets trapped. It usually gets trapped in the lungs. So you find yourself having issues with your lungs and you don't understand why. It could be the grief that you have been suppressing. Sometimes these emotions resurface years later. Often they'll resurface at unexpected moments. A person will just snap and they will just go berserk. Maybe there'll be a memory, maybe there'll be a quiet moment alone, maybe there'll be a physical symptom, but somehow these emotions will erupt somehow. This does not mean that the person has failed to cope. It just means that these emotions were simply waiting for space to be felt. So, what if our understanding of strength needs to change? Have you asked yourself, have we asked ourselves, what is the meaning of strength, right? Because we tell ourselves we understand what strength is, but maybe it needs to change. Maybe that understanding needs to change. What if strength does not mean suppressing our pain? What if that's what it means? What if strength means that allowing ourselves to cry? What if that is strength? What if speaking honestly about your loss is strength, right? What if avoiding speaking about your loss is not strength? Maybe it's cowardice. Asking support when we need it is strength. Takes a strong person to ask. Allowing ourselves to feel and even look weak is a strength. That's why I'm saying maybe we need to change our understanding of what strength is, right? These actions require courage. Asking for help, feeling vulnerable, telling people how you feel, crying, and speaking about your loved one, even though you'd rather not. All those require courage. That is strength because you allow others to see your humanity. Weak people do not allow themselves to show weakness, and grief is one of the most human experiences that we all share. There's not a single person in this world who will not go through grief. Many people are waiting for permission, and they haven't given themselves permission. They are waiting for other people to give them permission. Permission to feel your sadness, permission to miss the person that you've lost, permission to speak about your memories of this person. You're waiting for other people to give you permission, but you don't need other people's permission. Give yourself the permission. Most of the time it doesn't come from other people. Other people would rather have you quiet. Other people would rather have you not speak about your pain or feel your sadness because it makes them uncomfortable. So if you're going to wait for other people to give you permission, you probably won't get that permission. So that permission has to come from within yourself. Allowing yourself to feel your grief does not make you weak. It simply means that you loved someone deeply. So if you've ever been told to be strong while you were feeling weak, I want to offer you a different message today. You are allowed to feel. Hear that again. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to be weak. You are allowed to feel pain. You are allowed to feel lost. You are allowed to miss the person that you have lost. You are allowed. Don't look for permission from someone else. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission. You are allowed. Give yourself that permission. Because strength is not the absence of emotion. Strength can also mean allowing the heart to heal honestly and properly. That is real strength. So if you'd like to understand the emotional journey of grief more deeply, feel free to download my guide. It's a short ebook that is titled When Loss Changes Everything. You can find it on my website at ariselifecoaching.net. In the next episode of this series, we'll talk about another experience many grieving people face but rarely understand: how our identity can change after the loss of someone we love. Till the next episode, if this has helped you, please share it with someone who might need it. And please feel free to subscribe if you'd like to get more conversations like this. And if you feel ready to explore this more deeply, I do offer one-on-one support in a gentle and personal way. And remember, you are allowed to feel. You are allowed to feel. Give yourself that permission to feel. Thank you for being here.